さて、この度のゲームはどう転ぶのか。委ねるもよし、抗うもよし。いずれにせよ、わしに残されたわずかの命をトスに値する実に楽しい宴よ。
In his dimly lit study, which was occasionally brightened by lightning, Kinzo kept mumbling to himself, laughing to himself. On the antique clock with an intricate design that was sitting on his desk, the two overlapping hands had begun to tilt to the right and separate from one another. The passage of time that had counted to 24 had turned to 0 and begun to start counting again.
時の刻みとは残酷なものよ。24を数えるために1日をかけてたどり着き、そして再び0に戻る。23時59分までは確かに数えただろう。しかし、24時にたどり着くことはできたのだろうか。たどり着けず、再び0時に戻ったと考えれば、それは何とも虚しいことよ。
No. Is that not the same as a person's life? You live, aiming for a perfect 24, and in the instant you reach it, you return to 0. People may praise the departed, saying that they did reach 24, but that is absolutely not 24. It is nothing more than 0.
わしは違うぞ。わしは生きて24にたどり着く。そここそが黄金鏡。ベアトリーチェの住処なのだから。
Kinzo had been fumbling around with some tarot cards for some time. It looked as though he was trying to divine his own luck, his own propensity for victory, and doing it over every time he didn't like the result. The most forbidden action in tarot reading is to try predicting the same thing twice. It is a desecration to the result of the fortune telling, and also desecrates the existence higher than humans, which delivers signs through the tarot cards. However, Kinzo knew. The reason the tarot cards shouldn't be used twice was that, since it was nothing more than a random number generator, it was natural that if you read them twice, a different result would appear. Therefore, reading twice was only forbidden to preserve the mystique of the tarot cards' results. However, that didn't mean that Kinzo didn't take tarot reading seriously. Kinzo's interpretation of tarot reading was done in a completely different way. That was to repeat the reading over and over until he reached the result most favorable to him, without the slightest amount of compromise. Kinda like these chess games, redoing them over and over until battler wins. But how does this help Kinzo though? I mean, he survived the last game, and yet we are doing another chess game as if he never won to begin with. Does this mean that he's aware of these chess games that are happening? In which case, him reviving Beatrice and surviving the ritual is not enough for him? I mean, it can be possible that it is because of Battler, since he is the one to constantly deny the witch. That nullifies Kinzo's victory, despite him surviving the whole ordeal last time. So, yeah, that could be the explanation. He may also want everyone to believe in Beatrice, while he himself also survives. Still, it would depend on how he defined the result most favorable to him. Like, I don't know, it's... Like always, Kinzo is a mystery. But if he demanded the best result in a strict sense, it would be the same as a simple roulette of luck, where he sought an arithmetic miracle. However, to Kinzo, who made miracles of numbers the basis of his magical power, this could become very much like a magic ritual. In other words, until the result he desired appeared perfectly, he would repeat the title readings over and over, turning his labor, conviction, and the feelings of his heart into a prayer. So that when he reached heaven, the result would be sublimated. This was Kinzo's personal magic interpretation. Therefore, even though the tarot cards Kinzo used were exactly the same as generally used tarot cards, the way they were used was completely different. Kinzo stopped his hands for a second. It seemed the result he expected wasn't showing up. On the contrary, many bad cards that shouldn't often appear were appearing repeatedly, and continuing to interfere with the miracle Kinzo wished for. It seemed that Kinzo had taken some kind of sign from his abnormal course of events. But judging by the unlucky cards scattered over the desk, it was difficult to imagine that the sign had been a good one. For a while, Kinzo closed his eyes tightly, pondering something. Then, as the thunder roared, he made up his mind about something, took the telephone receiver, and dialed. In front of the main entrance, Shana was cooling her flushed face in the frigid air. She had thought that George's proposal would surely come sometime. It wasn't as if her heart had been unprepared, and she had nodded as an answer. But had she been reckless because of her youth? Should she have thought about her future more seriously? She found herself worrying that he might have thought of her as a cheap girl because of her immediate reply. Perhaps, at least holding off until tomorrow morning would have given the impression of thinking more seriously. Now that she had already received the ring from George, Shannon kept fidgeting in embarrassment, thinking she had done this, she had done that. As she did, she heard the sound of footsteps coming towards her, splashing through puddles. Shannon immediately chased away the emotions welling up inside her.
Genji-sama? Kanon-kun mo? すみません。すぐに戻らなくて、
She grew stiff, thinking that she would surely be scolded for spending too much time in her secret lover's meeting with George.
シャナ、親方様が至急書斎へ来るようにとの仰せだ。急ぐ。
はい、かしこまりました。一体何事なの？
不吉な予感がするってさ。自分で儀式を起こしておいて都合のいい話さ。
大田に気取られぬよう裏から入った。足音に気をつけろ。
はい、姉さん注意して。姉さんは賑やかだから。
Kanon was especially good at hiding his presence. Like he was a cat. He was able to suddenly be there without anyone noticing, and living in the same way. So even if he were to step in a puddle, the sound he would make would be far smaller than that of the rain hitting the puddles. Genji also had that ability. Well, in the first place, that was how the servants were supposed to be, even going by the name of furniture. Just like how desks and closets could go unnoticed by members of the family. The servants also treated being able to show up unobtrusively when they needed to as their greatest virtue. I mean, we can also add that to Kinzo's influence on them. making them magical ninjas and such. In that sense, Shana's footsteps still strongly asserted themselves. She was also trying to hide her footsteps, but compared to Kanon and Genji, well, you could say that she was a little more lively. Eventually, they reached the back door, and the three of them entered the mansion. Immediately, they thought they felt something. It wasn't quite a sense of smell, rather, they felt it from the depths of their noses. And this hard to describe sensation, which you might call a sixth sense, allowed them to perceive that something was different than usual.
Genji-sama.
急ぐぞ。
This sure is interesting. Am I actually going to be able to see the events of the first Twilight this time, as well? Well, time to see what is cracking. I mean, they said that something smelled funny, so I wonder. That perception caused them to feel that something tense was closing in on them. I mean, in the last game, like every single murder that I've seen after the first Twilight was done in a magical way, whereas the first Twilight was still done behind the shadows where I couldn't see. And that was my only way of seeing that, well, it was done by humans. But if Beatrice is going to have some hand in this, in the first Twilight, and I'm going to be actually being able to witness it as well, then once again, this is not going to be good if the first Twilight is going to be done by magic. Realizing that, the three of them dashed up the stairs, aiming for Kinzo's study, still hiding their footsteps. When they dashed up the stairs, the smell of sweet poison. The smell of sweet poison, particularly to Kinzo's study, reached their noses.
いかがなさいましたか、源氏様。
結界が死んでいる。
The barrier? You mean the scorpion symbol? After hearing Kanon, she looked at the door to the study. A scorpion pattern was engraved on the doorknob. A powerful magic repellent. The final barrier, which protected Kinzo himself, had been broken. Of course, there was no change to the doorknob that the AI could see. However, they who could understand things that people couldn't perceive were able to recognize the dramatic change.
親方様。
So, even if the scorpion pattern is still there, the magic behind it is gone now. So that renders the doorknob useless now. I mean, of course, Beatrice surely done something to it now, but this reminds me yet again of the last game that we had, the second game, when human Beatrice acted as if she was not even aware of the existence of the scorpion pattern, like as if it was her first time. Now, once again, Beatrice knows about it.
親方様、源氏でございます。ここをお開けください。
Genji called in this way after knocking several times, but there was no answer from the study.
シャノン、背中を守れ。カノン、室内を探れ。
はい。
Kanon put his ear against the door, searching for a presence inside the study. To protect the backs of the other two, who were watching the door, Shana faced the other way, with her back to them, prepared for the unexpected.
親方様はいらっしゃられるはずです。ですが、静かすぎます。
ご無事だということか。
いいえ、静かがすぎます。
まさか、そんな。
親方様、扉を失礼させていただきます。
Genji pulled the gold key out of his pocket. It was the only key to the study that existed, other than the one Kinzo held. He stuck it in the keyhole and turned it heavily. At a glance, that would have indicated that it really was a strong lock. However, the fact that the barrier had been destroyed meant that this door had long been wide open for anyone with magical power. The lock made a heavy sound, indicating that the door had been opened to humans as well.
失礼いたします。
Alright, so Genji and Kinzo both have keys to the study room. Now I see Genji open the door with the key, and it made a heavy sound. So there is no room for doubt that the door was locked before. For humans, that is. Gonna have to take note of that. As Genji respectfully bowed his head, and Kanon's sense of tension grew tighter, and Shannon acted nervous, they entered the study. They immediately discovered Kinzo's figure. He was sitting in a reception sofa so that his back faced them. Genji noticed the person sitting across from him, and again bowed deeply. Sheesh. Already showing up in front of Kinzo, eh, Beatrice? Kanon also noticed that person, and he didn't bow his head. He went in front of Shannon and spread both arms, blocking the way to her. So without even seeing the person's face, Shannon already had a good idea who it was. And it's...
お越しでございましたか。ベアトリーチェ様。
Beatrice.
源氏か。なかなかに早いな。やはり家具は主の呼びかけに素早く応える方が良い。こやつとは大違いだ。
ロノエ様もお越しでしたか。
Genji directed his gaze towards the thin darkness behind, and to the right of Beatrice, where nothing appeared to be. Even Kanon and Shannon couldn't have imagined that someone would be there. However, the darkness answered immediately, and praised Genji's eyesight.
相変わらずさすがです。だいぶの久しぶりになりますね。それにしても老けましたね。それだけの弱いを重ねましたか。充実した日々を過ごしております。
Wait, so... this is the first time the two of them see each other for so long? I mean, unless Ronoe was secretly controlling Genji without him being aware of it. Does this mean that my theory about Genji being Ronoe no longer applies?
ロノエ様におかれましても、ますます充実されておりますようお見受けいたします。
But there is some connection there. It appears that they known each other for a while.
ええ、おかげさまです。そしてシャノンも久しぶりですね。君は随分と美しくなった。そして随分と強くなったようですね。良いことです。
ありがとうございます。
姉さん、あいつは一体。
カノン君とは会うのは初めてになりますね。私はベアトリーチェ様の家具頭を任されておりますロノウエと申します。
Well, Kanon definitely doesn't know about him. He is fairly new. I mean, I guess so. But apparently Shannon does? I mean, we do know that Shannon met Beatrice for the first time recently as well. So does that mean that in those times when Shannon and Beatrice talked to each other, Ronoe was also there? So that's how Shannon knows about him as well? Wait a second. How is that even possible? Unless I was right. he was by Beatrice's side even before.
源氏さんの古い馴染みですよ。あなたと同じに私も家具です。使える主は異なりますが。
The color of tension didn't disappear from Kana's expression in the slightest. Serving under a different master, furniture could become kind, brutal, or anything else as desired. If he called himself furniture serving the hated Beatrice, then surely he was a despicable being as well.
わらわもすっかり嫌われたものだ。
I say.
坊主憎ければ今朝までなんとかとはよく言ったものよ。
Beatrice simply sneered at Kano's hate-filled face. Then, Kano finally observed. Beatrice and Kinzo were enjoying a chess game, sitting and facing reception sofas. But Kinzo hadn't even quivered. He was holding his head with both hands, his eyes closed tight, as he contemplated his next move. No. Was he in anguish?
親方様。
わらわが金蔵に伝えたのは2つ。良い知らせと悪い知らせだった。良い知らせは、儀式を終えずしてわらわと再会できる幸運を得たこと。悪い知らせは、金蔵が儀式の一番最初の生贄に選ばれてしまったことだ。
What the hell? So even if Kinzo barricaded himself in his study and tried to survive, it didn't matter. You can just easily get in here and do your thing. Like, has that always been the case? Actually, I guess so. Reason why we found Kinzo dead in the boiler room in the first game, or Beatrice easily got inside the study room like last game when the ritual ended. Or, well, it can be that Kinzo deactivated the barrier himself so that Beatrice may enter. I can understand that happening for the last game, but here? No, that makes no sense. So, Beatrice must have done it herself. That or some human opened the door for her. Well, in which case, who? Other than Kinzo himself, that is. Because Genji has the key with him. He's the only one left that has the key to open the study door. Nah, this is something that I'm gonna have to think about later.
こればかりはわらわにもどうしようもない。実に気まぐれにルーレットにて決めたのだから。
嘘をつけ。もてあそんで殺しているくせに。
よして、カノン君。
さて、金蔵。そろそろ負けを認める気になったのか？これにて、わらわとの長きにわたる勝負は決着だな。
At a glance, you can tell the current situation on that chaotic chessboard. However, judging from Kinzo's anguish and Beatrice's malicious relaxedness, it looked as though it was already decided.
是非もなし。これもまた一興か。
わらわもだ。そなたとの勝負に決着がつくことは万感の思いあれど、もはや恩衆を超える。楽しかったぞ。退屈しない数十年であった。
Beatrice advanced her queen and made her final move. It was thus decided.
チェックメイト。これがわらわからそなたへの手向けだ。心置きなく眠れ。
Kinzo suddenly stood up and laughed, like an opera singer facing a full crowd and spreading his arms, as though he had succeeded in a century-long plan. Whoa! That laugh spat crimson. Whoa! Crimson flames poured out from inside him, spitting even out of his mouth, ears, and nose. And all at once, his body was wrapped in hellfire. But Kinzo kept laughing. The more he laughed, the more the hellfire spewed from out his entire body and began to char him. Those flames became a brilliant light, which dazzlingly shone on the various magic tools throughout the room, and made their distorted shadows dance across the walls. Those shadows looked like the dead in hell, in ecstasy over Kinzo as he burned. And for one who had made a contract with a witch, and who had reached the end of that contract, it was an extremely fitting end. After laughing and howling in the roaring flames for some time, Kinzo flopped to the ground, as though he was a puppet whose strings had been cut. Those incredible blazing flames disappeared as though they had burned up everything there was to burn. And afterwards, all that was left was a festering and burnt body that would make you want to avert your eyes. Burned to death, like in the first game. In a similar state like the first game. However, his death in the first game still could have been done by human. I mean, we found his body in the boiler room where we found him scorched, so there is some connection there.
お前が言うか。ふさわしい死に方だと思っているくせに。
なぜお前が姿を現している？僕たちに何か用だとでも言うのか？
よしてカノン君。ベアトリーチェ様を挑発してはダメ。
すっかり怯えさせてしまいましたね。
わらわはつくづくカノンとは仲良くなれぬようだ。そう嫌いでもないというのにね。
Beatrice smiled broadly, or perhaps wickedly. Kanon violently averted his gaze, obviously disturbed. His reaction was so different from what he had obviously intended that it made the witch and her butler laugh.
カノン、ベアトリーチェ様の御前であるぞ。言葉遣いに気をつけなさい。
ああ、構わぬぞ源氏。好きに言わせてやれ。わらわは寛大である。
何が寛大だ。
わらわは死にゆく者にはいつだって寛大である。
Kanon was brought to sudden realization by that creepy laughter. Beatrice's reason for being here was not just to take Kinzo's life. The first twilight required 6 sacrifices. Kinzo alone wasn't nearly enough. And they had just nonchalantly come to this place. Oh my. This is gonna turn into a bloodbath. But wait. It could be possible that Kinzo knew his death would arrive right now. It's just that, like, it's not like he would call the servants to protect him from Beatrice. Like, it just wouldn't fit. Does this mean that Kinzo intentionally brought the servants to sacrifice them too? That, or he knew that they were chosen as the next sacrifices?
安心せよカノン。そなたらがここに訪れたから生贄に選ばれるのではない。生贄に選ばれているからこそここに呼ばれているんじゃないか。
なんだと。
They instinctively figured it out immediately. 6 sacrifices were required for the first twilight. After Kinzo, how many more would you need to add up to 6? In this mansion, the number 5 instantly made them think of the number of servants here.
それがお望みですか。
感謝せよ家具どもよ。そなたたちの苦難の日々は今宵ようやく終わりを迎えた。
But the question is it just them three, or is it actually all the servants? Like, all 5 servants have been chosen as the sacrifices for the first Twilight. If this is at random, then that is quite a probability there, so to speak. That sure is luck, or unluck, that 5 of the servants are all gonna be dead in the first Twilight, if that's the case.
それを告げに訪れたわらわに感謝せよ。
かしこまりました。それをお望みでしたら。
源氏様。
Well, of course Genji is gonna accept it. Genji had agreed to the witch's harvest announcement in his usual manner, without raising an eyebrow.
親方様亡き後は、ベアトリーチェ様が我らの主。その求めに応じるのが我らの最後の務めだ。
Yeah.
シャノ、カノ、今日までよく仕えた。その労苦もこれにて終わりだ。
源氏はさすがですね。
What did Kinzo do to you, Genji, all these years?
同じ家具としてあなたを誇りに思いますよ。
シャノ、異論はないか。
はい。
ジョージ様から指輪を贈られたそうだな。それでもなお未練はないか。
はい。家具の身に過ぎた幸福でした。指輪を頂戴しただけで私の思いはすでに達せられております。
Shannon had not yet reached as high of a philosophical state of mind as Genji. There probably really were regrets left in her heart. She probably wanted to spend a little more warm time with the person of her thoughts, George. But she released herself from that. She took a single deep breath, and from that point on, the expression she wore was blank.
それでよい。
シャノンがそこまでの落ち着きを得るとは少し驚きでした。あなたも家具として達観したようですね。
I mean, after all that had happened in the second game, is this really how it's gonna end for Shannon, like right now? Just like this, so easily? I would expect some fighting spirit here as well, Shannon.
惚れた男と夜も共にできず、少しは悔し涙をこぼさんのか。
Well, no. At the very least, Shannon is not doing things that would please Beatrice. In actuality, it will be the opposite. That's what Shannon is trying to do over here, but still.
退屈な女よ。
ベアトリーチェ様ごときにこの気持ちはわかりません。私たちの命をご所望でしたらどうぞお受け取りください。私たちは慎んでそのお務めを全うします。
それでいい。よくぞ言ったな。
ベアトリーチェ様の苦手なタイプのようで。
最近小やつめはだいぶ達観しよった。
Yeah, as always. Shannon is quite good at burning witches.
どうも前回いじめすぎたようだ。それを言ったらバトラもか。わらわはまだぬるいのか、それとも追い詰め方が下手なのか。いずれにせよ面白みのないやつよ。しかしお前はまだわらわを楽しませてくれそうだよな。カノン。
カノン君。
Compared to the two who had attained a philosophical state of mind, there was a painful anguish on Kanon's face. Kanon was still far too young to accept his demise without regrets, after being told of it by a suddenly appearing witch.
カノン、わらわは退屈を何より嫌う。そしてお前を除く二人が素直に死を受け入れるもので面白くない。だからそなたにはわらわの期待を裏切らないでもらいたいものだ。
僕を慰み者にしようというのか。
Kanon realized that he was being provoked. However, no matter how much anger spurred him on, his opponent was a witch. Here was furniture. He had no chance of victory from the beginning. But the witch was expecting that he would struggle in vain and ride around, and was looking forward to it. Just thinking about that was frustrating enough to get his blood boiling. Was disappointing the witch by refusing to resist, like the other two, the only way he could strike back at her?
煉獄の七姉妹が長女、ルシファー。
Oh god. Oh boy. And it begins.
いでよ。
傲慢のルシファー、ここに。
カノン、家具に魔女と戦えというのも酷な話よ。そなたがいくら怒りに駆られようとも、勝算のない戦いでは希望も持てまい。無論、勝ち目のない戦いでは、わらわも退屈というもの。
So you're saying that Lucifer and Kanon should fight each other? Okay. You know, this is like the perfect setup for a fighting game. That's for sure.
ならば、家具は家具。
Ding ding ding.
家具同士で決着をつけてはどうか。それならば、勝てる希望も持てるであろう。
恐れながらベアトリーチェ様、私がそのような出来損ないの家具に劣るようなことがありましょうか？こんな可愛い子に私が万一にも負けるようなことなど。
我が家具、煉獄の七杭を打ち破ってみせよ。
Alright, Kanon. You can do this. Come on. You defeated a goat last time, and true enough, it is a lot more difficult with the stakes, but I have faith in you. You definitely have some fighting spirit in you.
見事打ち破ってみせたなら、そうだな。13人の生贄を逃れることのできる5人を、そなたに自由に決めさせてやろう。そなたの推薦する5人を、わらわは無条件にて黄金鏡に迎え入れる。
Free choice over the people who will escape. You know, this is all conflicting. Either it's all at random, or Beatrice can choose whoever she wants to kill, so that 5 people survive. If she's letting Kanon decide which 5 people can survive. So, which is it?
それならばどうか。
Kanon understood that he was being provoked. However, the witch's condition was very tempting. The evil ritual the witch and the rest were trying to carry out was, at this point, not something that Kanon cared about in the slightest. On the contrary, it was much more important for him to survive, be invited to the Golden Land, and have his wish granted by Beatrice there.
そなたは家具は嫌だと泣いたな。そなたの望み、叶えてやろうぞ。枕を濡らしてまで望んだ人間の体を与えてやろうぞ。どうだ？そうすればジェシカとも結ばれるぞ。おお、ちょうどよい。黄金鏡へ招ける5人にジェシカとそなたを推薦すればよい。
And with that, in your words, Beatrice, he will be perfecto.
自分だけが幸せになることに抵抗があるならば、さらにシャノンとその思い人であるジョージを加えればよい。義理があるならばさらに源氏も加えればよい。おお、これで5人だ。十分ではないか、カノン。これだけのご褒美があれば。
I mean, this feels like a trap, even if Kanon succeeds in defeating Lucifer. I mean, it was stated before that the sacrifices and those that die are chosen at random. And yet, if Beatrice is offering him the chance of letting 5 people survive, thus going against the randomness of the ritual, yeah, something tells me that Beatrice cannot even do that. So, she is giving Kanon a reward that doesn't even exist. I mean, that's the way I see it.
そなたはわらわを退屈させはしないよな。
どうせ戯れよ。耳を貸す必要はない。
僕は嫌だ。姉さんはそれでいいの？
Beatrice couldn't hide her evil smile at those words.
僕は嫌だ。幸せになりたい。家具なんてもう嫌だ。人間になって普通の恋がしたい。僕も姉さんのように海が青いってことを知りたいんだ。
若いですね。羨ましい。
だから若者は好きなのだ。源氏、シャノンは下がれ。カノン、ルシファーは前へ。
仰せのままに。
気に入らないわ。ベアトリーチェ様は無理でも私にだったら勝てるかもしれないという見下しが最高に気に入らないわ。
That was probably humiliating to Lucifer. But at the same time, she was also happy that she was so lucky to have this lovely prey all to herself.
恋、魔女の家具。いつまでも僕を見くびることができると思うな。
Alright. It seems that Kano is in control. Lucifer is sweating.
さあさバトラー、楽しい見せ物の時間であるぞ。
くそ、またおかしなことになりやがった。
Indeed. You can see it with your own eyes as well, Beller. I wonder. Well, I could say that I solved the epitaph. I mean, what else could it be other than 11037? But not only did we reach this solution so easily that it's too good to be true, but there is no way that Beller or anyone else would know to make this kind of connection, so let's just step back a little bit and think about what we just discovered. I can definitely say with enough confidence that this chapel and the writing near the door have a connection to the epitaph. Kinzo made sure that this chapel was not tampered with by unwanted people, and the lines do connect to Kinzo's gambling skills and ways of thinking in probabilities and risks. I cannot say that I know what to do with the word quadrillion, and so it tells me I'm gonna need more clues in order to figure out what to do with that. So I should probably ask other questions that need answers, namely about what the epitaph says. Earlier I made the connection that the lines written on the door of the chapel is the same as the passage in the epitaph that says, "Look for the shore the two will tell you of." But the writing near the door tells us that this door opens only at the probability of 1 in a quadrillion. So, does this mean that the door is the shore? Earlier, I mentioned that if I need to find Kinzo's hometown and follow it to find this village and all, we might find another chapel there that is quite similar to this one that he created in 1952. Because, well, since we are trapped on this island while the ritual is happening, we cannot go around the road to find the gold. So he had to create this chapel here so that we can continue solving the epitaph. However, if the chapel is the end goal of the epitaph, then why the hometown part? Why the village part? Why the shore part? Why would I try and find Kinzo's hometown if the chapel right here would be the supposed end goal of that journey? So, while I am still thinking that this writing and the chapel itself are an extra clue for the epitaph, I don't think that these supposed lines refer to the passage, "The shore the two will tell you of." Like, maybe I was a little hasty there, I guess, with my thinking outside the box mentality. Or, who knows, maybe I'm right. Only time will tell. Now, what about the door itself? It says that this door opens only at blah 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 blah. But how come the only thing we need to do to open this door is to use the chapel key? I mean, it is that easy. So what the hell does it mean that it says that the door opens only at such low probabilities? I mean, I could go with the idea that the key that the epitaph is referring to is the chapel key, and this door is leading us to the Golden Land, but no, it is just a regular ass door that leads us inside the chapel. Not to mention that when the Red Truth was introduced, we talked extensively about how there is nothing special to this door, and you can only unlock it and go through this door with the key. That there is no other means of entering the chapel, nor is there anything special going on with this door for us to go through it, like, without the key. Like, no hidden doors, no contraptions, nothing. So, what? Is it that if you use the key a certain way, the door opens, but instead of leading you inside the chapel, it does something else? Does it open a portal to the Golden Land? Like how Bueno from One Piece uses his devil fruit to open doors and go to different dimensions? And let's say that I'm right. Does this mean that the only thing we need to do is use the chapel key on the door a certain way and we solve the epitaph? No, I don't think so. Not only does it sound like trial and error, but it makes no sense in the context of the riddle. Like, how do these writings help me in solving the epitaph? Like, how? What am I supposed to do with the word quadrillion? What is the secret behind this door? Wait a minute. I just realized something. Human Beatrice died in 1967. It was clearly stated in red. Not only that, but this whole ordeal with Human Beatrice being trapped in the hidden mansion is confusing. If that is what happened, which was stated in red, then why did Kinzo create the epitaph in the first place? He uses the epitaph to try to revive Beatrice, and I assume that he was trying to revive her for over 30 years, since her death like sometime before 1952, but no. We find out that he created Human Beatrice and was alive by 1967. Then she died. Does this mean that he thought of creating the epitaph to revive Beatrice after 1967? If that is the case, then he did not create the chapel and the writing above the door with the epitaph in mind. Otherwise what? Did he create the epitaph in 1952 as a backup plan? In case Human Beatrice died? That could be possible, but... fucking... No, wait. Unless... maybe it's true. Maybe both of them are true. The chapel was not created for the epitaph, but later it was used for that. He created the chapel for a completely different purpose, like a possible wedding with Beatrice, as I mentioned a while back. But since human Beatrice died in 1967, he decided to put that writing on the wall as a clue for the epitaph afterwards. And from there on, he uses the chapel as part of the epitaph as well. Phew, okay, I think I was gonna explode there for a second. Okay, well, I guess I've learned something out of it. That he thought of the ritual and the epitaph after 1967. Unless there is some other bullshit explanation for it. Otherwise, it would fit. It would certainly still fit. But okay, back to the epitaph itself. What should I do with it? What should I do with it? Like, should I continue looking for Kinzo's hometown on the maps and such? Or could I do something else before that?